Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, Tennessee held on against Auburn today. Oh, my gosh. You talking about laying some bricks. It was rough out there. And we've got some Florida fans that are saying that the Vols offense in football is a flash in the pan. Flash in the pan. Yeah, we're going to discuss that as well. And I'm going to bring the receipts. All right, did you enjoy that game? That was brutal. I've got the highlights of that game right here. Yep, that's what it felt like. It felt like arm wrestling that was not going so well. I tell you, I've seen some bad shooting in my days, but that was rough. Let's take a look at the actual shooting. It might be the worst shooting game that I've ever seen for two teams. I was going back and forth with my Auburn friends. They were calling it a bad women's high school game, but I don't want to insult women's high school basketball, so I don't want to call it that. It was just awful. You sit here and you look at these numbers, and on three-point shooting, Auburn shot 11.1%. 11.1. Now, before you think that's terrible and awful and possibly the worst three-point shooting you've ever seen, wait a minute. Here's Tennessee's 9.5. Oh, my gosh. 2 for 21 for us, and they were 3 for 27. That was pitiful. I mean, it was, man, oh, man. I don't know what Tennessee's going to do. They got to do something to get the ball going in the hole for them. They need to start seeing it go in, and unfortunately, this stuff happens in basketball. You go through a cold streak, and you just got to hold on best you can until somebody starts making it, and then the other guys start making it, because we were shooting well earlier in the season, and now we can't buy a basket. And it's not like Auburn to shoot that poorly. Normally, they're pretty good from three. Also, now I know defense plays a huge role in this, and the Vols play good defense, but Auburn shot 23% overall, and that's not all defense. And we shot 27%, so it was just brutal. And even our guys that scored, like James, who had 15 points, he was 1 for 7 from three-point. Ziegler was 0 for 7. Vescovi, I mean, nobody made anything. It was just terrible. And as far as the Auburn guy getting fouled at the end, I'm going to tell you something. Auburn was so busy faking fouls in this game, it was ridiculous. Here's a replay of that actual play. Yeah, it wasn't a foul. They were begging for fouls, and oh, man, it was something. But anyway, we won the game. Look, sometimes you just got to take an ugly victory and just be glad you got it, because Auburn's not a bad team. They're a top 25 team. They're like 16-5 or 17-5. So anyway, we'll just take the victory. It was rough. Now we're going to get into the Vols offense. Now you've heard all the SEC fans out there talking about the offense is gimmicky and it's a fluke and all that kind of stuff. And they've been, running that jaw pretty good about that. Now we got the Florida fans saying the same thing. And of course, if it's Florida, my antenna goes up, because that's my least favorite team when it comes to football. And let's see what these guys are saying about Tennessee football. And this is Florida football at the voice of college football. I've never actually seen this before, but the guy that I'm going to show you, I have several times. It's High Top Sports, and he's actually on this guy's show, I believe. They're both good content creators, so I'm not sitting here giving them grief. It's just, look, they're running their jaw. And look, I do the same thing. I'm the one that called Billy Napier Billy Bob Napier. So, look, I troll as much as anybody, but they continue to troll our offense and say that it's, flash in the pan.
So you're considering this to be a bit of a flash in the pan for Tennessee in 2022, if I heard that right.
Yeah, I've been preaching that it's lightning in a bottle. I really think that it is. And that's everyone they say because you're biased because you're a Gator fan, but it's one of those situations where I feel like Hendon Hooker comes in, longtime quarterback, does a phenomenal job, and everything's just clicking. Florida had that with Kyle Trask not too long ago, where things kind of just fell at the right helm, right? You've got a longtime quarterback, you got a great tight end with Pitts. Everything just seemed to be in the right motion. And the next year we fall right off because everyone goes to the draft, things go their separate ways. You kind of go back to rebuilding. That's where I feel Tennessee is. Do I think Tennessee is going to go back to being the dismal Tennessee that they are? No, I think Tennessee and Hypel have done a great job, and they're going to do a great job. I just don't think they're going to, build off what they did last year, like some people are projecting.
Well, the correlation I can see is what you touched upon there in regards to, did Tennessee earn their 11-2 record? Of course they did, but did that have the complete look, offense, defense, every unit involved as an 11-2 team, or were the strengths so incredibly strong that they masked a lot of issues, just like that Kyle Trask team with all the weapons that they had, where the passing game just kind of overrode everything else, the defensive deficiencies, the lack of a running game, and they could just throw it so freaking well that they masked a lot of issues. And Tennessee looked.
All right, I got to stop them there. This business that we can't run the ball and that we're just this pass-happy offense, it's ridiculous. We run the ball more than we pass it, and we run the ball quite well because we spread the offense out so much that the defense gets spread out, and we ran the ball beautifully this year and last year. It's just a fact. But we're going to get into Hypel's offense, don't you worry, but let's let them keep talking.
Similar to that this past season.
Exactly. I mean, that class, that team had Damian Pierce, who's been balling out in the NFL as well, too. So, yes, that's exactly how I feel that it just – and to be fair, I mean, they kind of rolled through the SEC at a time where Florida's down, right? At the time they played Kentucky, Kentucky was starting to have its downhill fall. And, again, this is not a knock for Tennessee. I think they had a phenomenal season. You show up to South Carolina and get absolutely clapped. I think that loss kind of told me everything that I've been feeling. Losing to Georgia, look, I don't think you should hang your hat on that. Georgia is a well-oiled machine, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. It is going to be interesting to see how they, bounce back. I think Stetson Bennett is a bigger contributor than people realize. But yeah, I think Tennessee capitalized at a time when the SEC was in a weird place. And
yep. Well, what I heard there was flash in the pan, and we took advantage of the SEC while it was down. One of the reasons the SEC was down is because we put them down. Last year was the year we really should have won about 9 games, but we just, we got some bad breaks. This year, we probably overachieved a little bit because our defense wasn't there. Our defensive line improved dramatically, but our defensive backfield was a major problem the whole year. Matter of fact, it finished like 120th in the country as far as giving up tons of yards. But we're fixing that. We've brought in 3 cornerbacks, 2 safeties, just picked up another cornerback, and we're going to find another cornerback in the spring. So when we solidify that like we did the defensive line, because nobody ran on us big time, nobody, we're going to be okay on the defense. And if Hypel has a good defense, you better look out, because now we're going to take a look at Hypel's flash in the pan or his fluke or his gimmicky offense, or all the things that the Uncle Lou's and all these other content creators call it. And look, like I said, I'm not getting on these guys. They're actually good dudes. They're just, look, they're talking to Florida fans. They can't go out there and just start, talking about how great the Vols are. And he gave them some props. So, like I said, I'm not really trolling the dudes, but I am going to bring it up because this is what these folks are saying. And I guess we're just going to have to show them that's not true. And I'm going to start out with facts. I actually put this chart together because I thought people should see what Hypel has done over an 8-year period. Let's start out with Mizzou. He became the offensive coordinator in 2016. In 2015, Mizzou scored 13.6 points a game, which was pathetic. It was like 100th in the country. His first year, they moved from 13.6 to 31.4 points a game, and then 37.5 as offensive coordinator the second year. Well, I think we lost to them both years, and I couldn't figure out why they were so good, but that's what he did. Then he went to University of Central Florida, and he went 43, 43, 42, and he was in the top 5 in the country in offense and just doing really well. And then I'm showing 2020 and also 2020 of Hypel. In 2020, Hypel's team scored 42 points a game. And then we had Jeremy Pruitt. We scored 21.5 points a game. Then Hypel took over. We moved to 39.3 points a game, which was 7th in the country. Then the next year, 46.1 in the country. 46.1 points a game, which was number 1 in the country. Now, I understand, look, Hendon Hooker was a great quarterback for us, and he's going to do well in the NFL, especially after that injury. I think he's going to be fine. But this guy's been doing this his whole life as an offensive coordinator and as a head coach. And right here, you can clearly see Hendon Hooker wasn't the quarterback at Missouri. Actually, they had a good quarterback, and he went to the NFL. Then here at UCF, he had two different quarterbacks. Neither one was Hendon Hooker, and they were in the top 5 in the country in offense. And then right over here, yes, he had Hendon Hooker for 2 years. But this is what the guy does. Let me show you this. These are all the quarterbacks that he's had over the years. A guy by the name of Kent Myers, then he had Drew Lock, who wound up in the NFL, Mackenzie Milton, Dylan Gabriel, and then Hendon Hooker. Look at these touchdowns versus interceptions everywhere he's been. Here's one, 45-13, 34-6, 33-7, 34-4, Dylan Gabriel. Was Dylan Gabriel, was he a Heisman candidate? Okay, then Hendon Hooker, 31-3, 27-2. Hypel knows how to work with quarterbacks and make them great. You know, look, we're building Miramar and Knoxville. It's Top Gun. It's just a fact.
The elite, best of the best. We'll make it better.
That's right. And what it is, these folks, look, they're just taking copium. That's all it is. They got to cope. And look, they're talking to Florida fans, they're talking to Georgia fans, Alabama. They don't want to be sitting here talking about how good Hypel's offense is. I can understand that. Nobody wants to hear that down there. But I'm going to straighten it out right here with facts. And those numbers, look, these aren't made up numbers. This is what these guys did under Hypel. And this is what Hypel did everywhere he's been. So I brought the receipts. Because if I'm going to talk about sports, I like to have the numbers. I like to have the graphs. That way, you know, it's not just hyperbole. So anyway, I did want to talk about Tennessee holding on versus Auburn, and man, I hope they can get that offense straightened out. Oh, that was rough. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about Florida folks talking about our offense. You know, that's just what I do. I'm not going to let it slide. But, you know, like I said, they're just doing their thing, and I understand that. And right underneath here, I'm just going to put my email address. If anybody's interested in sponsoring this channel, be sure to check that out. You can contact me there. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover the Vols, the SEC, and anybody that wants to talk about our offense. And if you've not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Just hit that little button. Costs you nothing. I would certainly appreciate it. It would help me out. And right over here, YouTube puts my last video. Pretty popular. Be sure to check that out. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.